Hi everyone, Simon Keeling here, Tuesday the 9th of October. Thanks again for watching weatherweb.net. As always, the site's get free of charge by the adverts you see around the screen. So if there's an advert there that you like, that's what generates a revenue that keeps the site free of charge. Particularly if you click on it, that's what generates the revenue. So thank you for doing that. Now, high pressure's in control today across the north of the country. We've got a front across the south, which is bringing still some mist and drizzle there. But the interesting feature of today's forecast really is this drop off in temperature that's going to take place at the end of this week and into the weekend before we see a gradual increase in temperature into next week. Just quickly running through the details for the coming days. You see that cloud and rain affecting the south of the country today, ridge of high pressure still across the north, bringing better weather there. Through Wednesday, I think we'll find it's going to be the west and the southwest turn to see most cloud and outbreaks of rain and drizzle. I think more eastern areas tending to stay drier under a ridge of high pressure. Thursday looks set to be a wet day with low pressure coming in, some really heavy bursts of rain around at times, particularly for Scotland and southern England. But I do think through the night into Friday we should find much drier, brighter, cooler conditions moving in, with the risk of some showers out towards the west. And overall confidence in that part of the forecast is fairly high just at the moment. So Friday sees showers affecting western coast, but many central and eastern areas tending to stay on the dry side. Now into Saturday, things become a little bit more uncertain. Here's a little area of low pressure that moves through. Look overnight Friday into Saturday. It brings clouds and outbreaks of rain across southern parts of England and Wales during the course of the day on Saturday. And really a cold day looks to be on the cards across England and Wales on Saturday. Brighter towards the north, but still some rain affecting northern parts of Scotland. And into Sunday, another area of low pressure tries to come across southern parts of England. Now exactly what happens to this is unclear. You see how that low just tracked there through the channel. The problem with it is that if that is further north, we could get a really rough day across England and Wales, and I'm still not ruling that out just at the moment. It could be windy and pretty wet and pretty horrible across England and Wales on Sunday, but drier for the north and the west with some sunny spells coming in. I think for Monday, ridge of high pressure builds through, so a better sort of day, but then by Tuesday, hints of low pressure starting to bring a front into the west of Ireland and western Scotland, bringing rain. Although I think the GFS probably hasn't got this right just at this stage. Let me show you what I mean. If I bring up the charts from the ECMWF for Tuesday, this is how I think things are more likely to be. Look, it hasn't cleared away the low. It's kept the low down towards the south with a northeasterly across the country. I think this brings more rain through England and Wales and a cold day across England and Wales on Tuesday with this northeasterly breeze. I think by Wednesday the low is still there, so still unsettled across southern and eastern parts of the country with this northeast flow, but dry up towards the north. And it really isn't until we're getting through towards Thursday the 18th that the low starts to clear away, but it's still there, so we're still in unsettled conditions, cool conditions with sunshine and showers, and then we go back more into a westerly towards the end of that week. And that to me looks to be the way that things are going to progress next week, that we are going to be in this colder spell of weather with some outbreaks of rain, particularly down towards the south and east of the country, northern and western areas being generally dry, and then towards the end of the week we pick up more of a southwesterly flow, which probably lifts temperatures but makes things quite wet by the end of the week. It's what happens after that, I think, that is quite interesting just at the moment. Let me show you why. This is the 500 millibar flow from the GFS. This is the chart for today, and these red colours are where we've got higher than normal heights around the hemisphere, and you can see really dramatically higher normal than heights here across the northern Pacific, some across northern parts of the landmass of Russia, and going into parts of Central Asia, and then we've got this higher than normal heights across the Atlantic. Now watch what happens as we go through the sequence here. You'll notice how we get this sharp undercut trough that comes through by the end of this week. This is Friday. That pushes that high pressure towards the north. It looks a bit keen to do that, but look at this arc around the just across the pole, across northern Asia there, that's developing. Then we've got a trough that comes through the Atlantic. Look, this is taking us into Tuesday of next week. Now I can believe this because it brings us back more into a westerly flow, but I do think it'll take a time before that low clears away, as I said early on in the week, from those eastern parts of the country. It'll probably be later before we get into that milder southwesterly flow. However, what is interesting is that later on in the period, so this is next weekend, look, the ensemble picks up on a ridge building again off the eastern states. Now what tends to happen with these ensembles is that they by the time we're getting through to day sort of 8, 9, 10 onwards, they tend to want to bring the flow back more into a westerly. So any deviation from that can be seen as being quite significant, and this is what I see here. I think what will happen is this ridge is going to build, it's going to pump northwards, and I do think that what we could start to find here as that ridge builds north in the Atlantic is this trough cutting south through the UK, through Europe. So it would bring some unsettled conditions for a time around the sort of through the period from about the 19th to 22nd, 23rd, but then we could find the ridge building in again, and that would bring high pressure back across the country for the final week of October. Now, confidence is really, really low, but what is interesting is that the CFS is starting to pick up on this. This is the week 1 CFS, so this is this week. Look, and it's quite wet. This is the rainfall this week. Then if we go into week 2, well, it's starting to build the high back in. This is indicative of that southwesterly trying to get back in. Look, most of the rainfall to the north and the west, less of it down towards the south and the east. Week 3 sees high pressure building through the eastern parts of the country. Now, I think this is likely to be further west, but the CFS sees something in there, so this drier end to the month. Then beginning of November goes wetter again as the westerly flow returns and tries to get back in, and it probably stays like that up until around the 10th before high pressure tries to get back in once again, and we find dry conditions coming through into the middle part of November, and probably cooler as well. And that seems to be a reasonable enough pattern taking us into November, so it's going to be an interesting one to watch. So once again, thanks for watching, keep the sun shining, and bye for now.